gave you the longitude and latitude. It's been a week. Oh, we're back! So, it is a delight to be here as the theme song continues. We'll just vibe one more time. What's good, everybody? Thank you so much for coming to the show. Very excited to be here in Pennsylvania for the most important event that happened this week in your state. It's all good. Let's all forget it all for the next 2 hours and instead talk about books. I'm very excited to talk about books, and I'm very excited to talk about books with the guests that we have for this show, someone that you've heard many times on the podcast. Please make some noise for tonight's guest. It's Dr. Stephen Parra! Whoop, 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 whoop. Hello. Sweet. How's it going?
It's going good.
Yes, I asked you at the perfect opportune moment when you were farthest away and your hands were the most full of items.
But hello, Doylestown.
Okay, so who's here that has never listened to the podcast and is like dragged along by someone? Okay, cool, sweet. So in a very early episode of the show, they gave us the longitude and the latitude of the Bermuda Triangle, and I mistyped it in my notes, and what I got was Doylestown, Pennsylvania, so I said if I ever do shows in Philly, I will call it Doylestown. And here we are. It has led to confusion where multiple people were saying like, oh yeah, your show tonight's like right outside of Philly, right? And I'm like, no, it's like in Philly proper. It is 10 minutes away from the Amtrak station. It is quite close, I promise. It's a joke. Please come to the show. So, glad everyone made it despite any potential confusion. I'm also very excited that, who was at the Philly show last year? Yeah, at that other venue, where it was so hot. It was so warm. People were fanning themselves like Southern belles, and myself included. I'm glad we don't have to do that. Not only because I don't have to sweat on stage, but it also allows me to wear the Wawa sweater, which I was very excited. I did bring a change of clothes, like just in case it was not going to be cold enough, but it is cold enough so I can rep my favorite convenience store. Stephen, how many Wawas did you pass on the drive over to?
I don't know, but I learned very thoroughly from all the billboards that Wawa now has pizza.
Oh, I love Wawa with all my heart. I will defend many things from Wawa. I do not think I will be getting Wawa pizza. As much as I love Wawa and their chocolate milk, which, God, it's so good. So many good things from Wawa. I may or may not badger you into having us stop by one on the drive home.
We got to get gas, so I guess we're going.
Yes! We're going to get chocolate milk, and it's like, my favorite thing about Wawa chocolate milk, it's like, oh, you can get the one size, you can get the next size. It's like, for 3 cents more, you can get half a gallon. You're like, obviously. All right, I mean, I could talk about Wawa for 2 hours, but you all purchased tickets for me to talk about books, so I guess I will do that instead. Now, what we're going to be talking about today is at least chapters 15 and 16 of The Son of Neptune, possibly chapter 17, depending on how quickly we get through things. But where we last left our heroes, the quest was getting ready to begin, and Percy was about to go on a private chat with Raina after the big Senate meeting, and that is where we leave off. So, chapter 15 is called Percy. Obviously, we will retitle it by the time we get to the end of it, but this chapter opens with, quote, Percy was glad Riptide returned to his pocket. Judging from Raina's expression, he thought he might need to defend himself. And thank goodness, you all are well aware that I get so stressed whenever Riptide is not back. And I just am so delighted that this chapter opened with, don't worry, he's good. The pen is in the pocket. Felt very happy. Good thing to start off. Good thing to read yesterday morning in prep. It was a nice change of pace from existential dread. Okay, I promise we're done. Raina enters the room in a huff, and she is followed by her metal dogs. Percy is sitting in one of the Praetor chairs that he really wanted to sit in last time, but he did decide to sit in this time. And he's worried that he shouldn't be there, so when she gets in, he starts to like get up like, oh, I'm so sorry. And he's like, no, stay seated because we have a lot to discuss.
But seriously, Percy, if you're going to react that way, why'd you go through all the effort to drag the chair all the way around?
Oh, he had to move the chair too?
Yeah.
That is a lot of effort if you're going to... Well, maybe he thought she was going to take a longer time between. He was like, I've got enough time to sit and relax before she comes back. So maybe that was that. So she slams her dagger down on the table and it makes the bowl of jelly beans jostle around. And now this is the second time where these jelly beans have been referenced, but not explained. And spoiler alert for the rest of this chapter, they don't get explained. If these are like, I don't know, man, I feel like they're Chekov's jelly beans, but like, are they just jelly beans on a table? That's wild. Who just has jelly beans on a table?
I don't know, Dumbledore?
I guess, but yeah. But they're like fun jelly beans. I don't know. Jelly beans on a table is a wild vibe unless you're like a 95-year-old grandma. But Raina's got them. She jostles them around by slamming her dagger down. And she is upset at the whole Senate meeting. And she's specifically upset at Octavian for getting into his whole talking spiel and just generally being himself. Percy says, quote, "You're a warrior. Octavian is a talker. Put him in front of the Senate, and suddenly he becomes the powerful one." And she tells Percy that he's smarter than he looks. And he says, "Gee, thanks," which is correct because she is telling him, "You look like an idiot." I don't understand. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's a weird attempted compliment of like, you don't look like a nerd, but like, that's also a mean thing to say.
I don't really know, but I have noticed, like, through these early chapters that Rick has kind of made a point for other people to point out, like, hey, you're kind of smart.
Yeah. It is fun to, like, slowly see people who don't know Percy learn Percy. Mm-hmm. And that is a nice revelation for them. And it's also just a nice change of pace for us because obviously we know Percy, but these people, they don't. After saying, gee, thanks, he says that he hears that Octavian is trying to be elected praetor if the camp even survives this battle. And Raina uses this comment as a nice segue into discussing how Percy can fit into the whole thing and saving them from the looming battle. Raina says, quote, "But before I place the fate of Camp Jupiter in your hands, we need to get a few things straight." And then she puts her ring on the table and points to the inscription on it, which matches the design on her tattoo. It's a sword and a torch. And she asks Percy if he knows what that means. And he guesses that it's the symbol of her mother, the war goddess. And then his narrator, Percy, he can't remember what the war goddess's name is. He says, quote, something like bologna or salami? And thank goodness this was an internal thought because right afterwards, Raina responds, Bologna, yes. B-L-L-O-N-A, Bologna, yes. It's just very good comedic writing from Rick to have the internal monologue of like, what's it like, bologna? And then the person be like, you are correct. It's like, oh, right, because he didn't actually guess them out loud. So good. I think Rick, in this whole book, is really doing well, but like specifically with the Percy chapters, it came up in an episode that I just recorded recently, and then this one, it's just like his comedic knowledge of writing. It's just like, as like a nerd of it in terms of doing like improv and scripted stuff and all that, like obviously like when something is funny, it's just funny. But I feel like the specific, like me just being like, I see what he's doing there. Like I understand the science of this joke. He's really cooking and I like it a lot.
And it's funny that you say cooking because I've noticed for so many of these, they're all food puns. Like you have a feast for tuna?
Yeah, there is a good amount of food puns going on.
Bologna.
That's true. Raina is surprised that Percy, 1, doesn't know where he has seen this ring before, and 2, who she is, and 3, who her sister Hyla, Hylla, I'll have to ask Dr. Moy if this is anything, but I think it's just like a name, Hylla is, and I also don't know these people. So maybe this is what Percy was up to before the book began. Maybe this was the slumber.
No, this is from the Sea of Monsters.
Okay, but Hyla showed up?
I don't know about Hyla.
Yeah.
Because I didn't bother to Google that.
I think we start to learn like what's going on, right?
Yeah.
But
I did Google.
Oh, okay.
A little bit.
I'm always afraid of Googling because I'm afraid it's going to be like, in book 8 when Grover dies. Like, I'm always terrified.
But do you think I would bring that up to you now?
No, I do not. I do not. I'm just explaining why I never Google stuff.
Oh, yeah, no, you can't.
I cannot. I got burned by, thankfully it was like after I'd already learned it, but like, I'm pretty sure if you Google George Weasley, I think, or no, Fred dies.
Fred, yeah.
Spoiler alert. I think when you Google Fred Weasley, like it's enough soon enough on like the description, like that Google auto populates that it's like Fred Weasley who died in the Battle of Hogwarts. Like, why is that the first thing said about him? So, I just I can never Google anything because I'm terrified. Yeah. But I, at least at this point in reading, was wondering like, who's this? What's going on? I'm confused. And then we learn a little bit more as the chapters go on.
Yeah, I did check.
Okay.
And I didn't care about Hyla, so I didn't check.
Okay.
But I did check for Reyna.
Uh-huh.
And like Rick spoke about this on sort of Q&A, and he's like,
okay,
she was there the way Nico was in the Lotus Hotel and Casino when we see in the first book.
But we didn't have a thing where we met Reyna or Hilla or like they were there, but it wasn't like, hello, this is my assistant Reyna, etc.
Not for Reyna. I couldn't tell you Hilla. I didn't check. But
I feel like I would have picked up on a unique name like that, or either of their names, honestly. So to me, it was new, but we'll get a little bit as it goes. So Reyna tells him that it would have been 4 years ago, and then Percy instinctively says, before you came to camp. And Reyna's surprised that he knew this, but Percy explains, well, you have 4 very large stripes on your arms, and each stripe is for a year at camp. So what I wrote in my notes at this point was, 4 years ago. So we're talking about book 2. We're talking about Sea of Monsters. Reyna goes on that Percy might not remember her even if he had his memories. She says that she was a little girl, an attendant among many at the spa. And she says that he spoke with her sister just before he and Annabeth destroyed their home. So my guess at this point was, okay, spa, book 2, Cersei's Island? Like, it's the only thing that I could think of. And then narrator Percy says, quote, Percy tried to remember. He really did. For some reason, Annabeth and he had visited a spa and decided to destroy it. He couldn't imagine why. Maybe they hadn't liked the deep tissue massage. Maybe they'd gotten bad manicures. So I like that Percy's not even questioning the manicure, but he is saying, like, I would never stand for a bad one. Standards, I like it. But yeah, at this point, it felt to me Cersei's Island-esque. And then as this goes on, we'll see another clue that makes me think it's that. But I still don't think we like met them directly. But especially if you're saying the Nico Lotus thing, it's like, that makes sense.
It is weird for me because this is the first time I'm coming through these books with you where I am no further ahead than you are.
What a fun situation.
I am just spitballing here. But yeah, to me, it seemed screaming Sea of Monsters.
Yes. Percy says that he truly does not know what happened, and he cites your dogs who chew up people who lie are currently not chewing me up, so I think we're good, yeah? And she says that she believes him, but she says that not everyone at camp trusts him. She reveals that Octavian thinks that he was a spy sent by Gia to learn their weaknesses and distract them. Quote, he believes the old legends about the Greeks. And of course, Percy, being a good folk for us, the reader at home, especially for people who may have skipped The Lost Hero, goes, what old legends? And then she explains that some people believe that Greek demigods still exist, and they follow the older forms of the Olympians. And the legends tell tales of battles between Greek and Roman demigods as recently as the American Civil War. She has no proof that this happened. The Lairs, if they know something, they're not telling anyone. But Octavian, however, believes and thinks that the Greeks are plotting their downfall and working alongside Gia. And Octavian sucks. I hate him. All my homies hate him. And
I am a homie. I hate him.
Yeah. Just proving time and time again that this dude is the worst. Percy asks if this is what she believes, which I think is a nice response for him to be like, whatever, this guy, but do you believe this? And she says that she thinks that Percy came from somewhere, but she's not necessarily sure of where. She recognizes Percy's importance and how dangerous he is because she saw everything that he's done in his couple of hours at camp. And she's also not ignorant to the fact that 2 gods have taken special interest in him. So she doesn't think that Percy is going to be the one to fight against Olympus or Rome. Feels like they have a vested interest and a bit of a trust in him. She thinks that it's possible that the gods sent Percy as a test of her judgment, but her belief is that Percy's here to make up for the loss of Jason. So I think Reyna, who I'm liking more and more as the chapters go on, I feel like she's got a very level head and she's doing a good job of not getting caught up in any sort of emotion, whether that's her personal emotion or the overall just panic level of the camp. Feels like she's thinking about things logically and reasoning them through. And I think that's good to have in the Praetor.
Oh, definitely. And for someone having to shoulder all that responsibility by herself for 8 months, doing a really admirable job of it.
Right, especially because she's a teenager. So that's super not easy. My gosh, I had a hard enough time just doing my homework. I got to run a camp? Yeah, no way. Percy thinks as to how this guy, Jason, gets brought up all the time at camp. And it's very reminiscent of Jason in The Lost Hero, where he's like, wow, they sure do talk about this Percy guy a lot. So I thought that was pretty funny. And then Percy asks Raina if they were an item based on how she speaks of him. So Percy, just plowing through, never afraid to ask a bit of a touchy question. And I was very, very relieved at her answer. She says, quote, we might have been given time. Praetors work closely together. It's common for them to become romantically involved, but Jason was only Praetor for a few months before he disappeared. Ever since then, Octavian has been pestering me, agitating for new elections. I've resisted. I need a partner in power, but I'd prefer someone like Jason, a warrior, not a schemer. This just makes me feel like the whole Piper, Jason, Raina situation will be much more manageable. And I do feel like Raina is level-headed enough to be chill with it. Like, she might still be sad. She might still be hurt. But if Jason comes back and says, I've had this wonderful adventure with this girl and I really like her, I'm so sorry, to my maybe, I guess, kind of, we would maybe in the future date girlfriend. Like, it's such low stakes that I feel like even if Raina is saddened, she will understand the situation. So I feel like there's not going to be a lot of hurt feelings, which makes me feel happy.
Oh my gosh, I can just say like, I don't know.
And I
mean it.
Yeah.
I actually mean it.
We didn't even have to install the trapdoor. You're just good. You're good. You're just good. But ultimately, I don't think she's going to think this is some sort of grand betrayal if he shows up with Piper. So I think it's going to be fine. And my big shot in the dark theory, which I believe I said in the last recording, is my like home run swing is that Raina and Leo get together. And I'm purposely not looking at the crowd because I don't want to see.
Yeah, I'm just looking at you too.
Yeah,
I don't care if I get spoiled, but it's fine.
Yeah, but for me, it is my literal job. Percy says nothing. And then it dawns on him that this was a silent invitation talking about Praetor and all this kind of stuff. So he goes, oh, you mean, oh.
Like, right? She's like, hey, it could happen for us too.
Yeah, and by doing that, it also kind of puts a little thing of like, Octavian pestering for her. Like, that's kind of a weird vibe too of like, I don't know. Makes like he's already terrible and it's gross, but like now it's even like I thought it was gross enough when he was just like, so there's elections. We should have elections, right? Everyone think about an election for me specifically, but like the added element of like, and then I get to date Raina maybe. Like, hey, I don't like him. I don't like him. I don't like him.
I got some teddy bears you can check out.
Yeah, no. God, he's really creepy.
Yeah, I didn't feel good about that one.
No, I don't feel good about him at all. But we can at least all have a unified hatred of one character, and we can all bond. But Raina says that she thinks the gods sent Percy to help her. She doesn't understand his arrival any more than she did 4 years ago, but she thinks it's some sort of repayment. Percy destroyed her home once, and now he is here to save her new home. She states that she holds no grudges for Percy, even though her sister still does. She says that fate brought her to Camp Jupiter, and things have gone pretty well for her ever since she's gotten here. Her only request is that Percy will work with her to better the camp going forward. So again, feels like her priorities are in line, and I like her as the leader of Camp Jupiter.
She's a good egg.
Percy, Percy agrees to help, but suggests that someone with more Camp Jupiter experience would make a better Praetor. Hey, Hazel and Frank are going on the quest with me. Maybe they could be a little bit better. At this point in my notes, I wrote, the vibes of this where you are maybe going to date Raina after just makes the already awkward offer to Percy even more awkward. Because it's not just like, hello, person who's been at camp for a day. Would you like to run the camp soon? And also maybe marry me? Like, I think it's just... It's getting a little bit wild with they often get romantically interested element. But in response to the proposal of Frank or Hazel, Raina says that no one's going to follow a child of Pluto, and Frank is too inexperienced. And if people found out about his tattered family history, that would be bad, and risking that is too high of a risk. And then Percy goes, what family history? I'm so sorry, what? And then Raina goes, the point is, Percy, Chiron got to her.
Coast to coast.
He's so good. The point is, Percy, you are the real power of this quest. You are a seasoned veteran. I've seen what you can do. Just completely zagging over the question. Gosh. Well done. But like ultimately, it's more fun if we learn about this later. But also, she says that a son of Neptune wouldn't be her top choice, but she thinks that he can save the Legion, and then the praetorship would easily be his if he wanted it. She says that the two of them together could expand Rome's power, raise an army, find the doors of death, and defeat Gia. And then she says, you would find me a very helpful ... friend. which is a weird thing to say. Narrator Percy says, quote, she said that word like it could have several meanings and he could pick which one. And I'm just thinking of the, like, what do you mean by that gif? Because, like, what does she mean by that? I don't know. Like, she is uptight enough where she could just be like, we could be friends. But also she has talked about the relationship thing. She's like, we could be friends. Like, what do you mean by that?
All of them.
All of them? It also had the weird vibe of, like, we would make a good ... friend would be like, and, inherently, I would be a enemy you wouldn't want. Like, we'd be good friends, we'd be bad enemies. Like, is she kind of blackmailing him, forcing him? Like, you should totally pick this. I don't think that's the vibe, but, like, there's enough interpretations of the sentence where I'm like, Raina, what is going on?
She's desperate, man.
That is true.
In many ways.
That is. Percy says that he's flattered, but he has a girlfriend and he doesn't want power or a praetorship. And I'm wondering at this point, like, okay, so Percy's clearly gone on to the whole, like, she might be seeing the relationship thing. Like, and is this him being presumptuous or no? Like, is he being like, oh yeah, well, no, I already got a girlfriend. She's like, I was not talking about that, Percy, at all. Like, this happened to me one time. When I was living in California, I, like, gave a girl a ride home after a party because, like, her place was on the way home to mine. And then it was, like, late at night, and she was like, oh, like, you still got to drive all the way back to the East Bay. Like, do you just want to crash in my place? And the way she asked it, I was like, oh, she's hitting on me. And I was like, what do I say? I was like, I'm sorry, I have a girlfriend. She's like, I just wanted to know if you wanted to sleep on our couch. And I was like, oh, I've made this so much worse. So is he doing that, or is he in the right spot? I don't know.
I feel like Percy's a pretty intuitive guy. I think they spent a lot
Mike
of time.
Schubert, not at all. He was missing that signs all the time. He thought he was cooking. Ooh. It's like, oh, clearly I'm spitting game, but like, she doesn't know I'm taking it. Like, she's like, no, we just have a couch that you could sleep on. It's all right, I'm better now. Raina is surprised, and she says that a man turning down power is not very Roman of him. And I wrote, oh, well. She says that she must choose a new partner before the invasion in 4 days. And Percy is her preferred choice, but if he doesn't come back or if he refuses, she may be stuck with Octavian, which I don't like, and I feel like she could pick anyone else and it would be a better option. And I was wondering, was she sneakily trying to say that Octavian is the backup plan to try and guilt trip Percy into saying yes? I'm like, well, I guess I'll just have to be stuck with the worst person at camp if you don't accept, just saying.
You don't want to be friends.
What does it mean? Her reasoning is that things at camp are worse than they seem. So Percy asks, how bad are they? And Raina digs her nails into the table, which I think tells the story enough. And she says that she's withheld the information from the Senate to avoid mass panic across the camp. She has asked Octavian not to share all of the auguries. Apparently, he has seen a large army led by a giant marching south towards them. And Percy asks, is it Alcyoneus? And Raina doesn't think so, because why would someone who is invulnerable as long as they remain in Alaska not remain in Alaska? So she thinks it's someone else. So Percy responds, great. So we've got 2 giants to worry about, which is just like last book. We had Enceladus, whose name I know how to say because yesterday morning, Dr. Moya and I did our recording. So I know how to say his name now after however many episodes we did. They had to deal with Enceladus and Porphyrion. So maybe it's the same kind of thing here where we have Alcyoneus and then we've got someone else. I don't know. You don't know either. So let's just move on. Raina says that Lupa and the wolves are trying to slow them down, but it won't be enough. And she's confident that this evil army will arrive by the Feast of Fortuna at the latest. And Percy gets especially worried because he's seen Lupa and her pack fight. And he's thinking, okay, if they're having trouble fending off this enemy, that is very bad news for us, the demigods. Raina can see the concern on Percy's face, so she says, yes, it's bad, but not hopeless. And that's going to be me for the next years. Okay, so I promise.
Schubert!
For everyone, if we're recording this on November 7th, it's so hard to function. She adds that if Percy, Hazel, and Frank return the eagle and release death so the enemies can actually stay dead, they have a chance. And she then says that there's one more possibility. And then she slides the ring across the table very dramatically. I thought this was cool, but like, I've never really tried to slide a ring. I guess if it's just like a normal, like perfectly round ring, like my wedding ring, that would be fine. But if it's a ring like this, like our Rice class ring, like if I tried to slide this because the top is heavier, it would like jumble around. So either she slides it across and it looks really cool, or she slides it and it goes like plug, 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 and falls off the table.
And what seems more teenage to you?
I mean, but it's Raina though. Like she's very put together. I feel like it would be a perfect sliding. So maybe it's like a perfectly round ring with an inscription and not like a, a college ring like this where it's chunkier on one side. But she slides the ring across the table. And then I got so stoked for this next sentence. Quote, I can't give you much help, but your journey will take you close to Seattle. I'm asking you for a favor, which may also help you. Find my sister, Hilla, however you say her name. And I literally, on the train, when I was reading this today on the wonderful Amtrak ride I took, I literally looked like the Pikachu meme. Like, I was just like, Seattle, another place where I've lived. Rick, thank you so much. Like, it's so nice. I'm very excited for the book that happens in Central Jersey. Anyone from Central Jersey come to the show? What's good? We exist. So I was very excited at the Seattle thing. I don't know exactly where they're going to go, but I am going to nerd out and be insufferable to 98% of the podcast listeners when they're like, stop talking about West Seattle. We don't care. And I'm like, but Alki Beach. So I'm so stoked about it. Percy checks that the request from Raina is for Percy to visit her sister, who hates him. And Raina admits, yes, she would love to kill you, but if you give her this ring from me as a token from me, she may help. And Percy goes, may? Perfect response. Absolutely perfect response. Raina says, look, I cannot speak for her. And then she looks off into the middle distance and says, I haven't spoken to her in weeks. Percy guesses that the mission is to check in on her and ensure that she's all right. And Raina says partially, but the other angle is that her sister could also help on Percy's quest. And Percy asks, so is Hilna going to send some sort of help? And then Raina doesn't answer, keeping it vague. But she looks desperate for anything that will save the camp, and Percy can see this pain in her eyes, so he commits to finding her. He asks where to look. Raina says, just go to Seattle. They're going to find you, which is beautifully ominous. Percy then takes the ring and adds it to his necklace, which now has all the beads and his pro Batio little tag, and now this ring. And then he says, wish me luck. And Raina says, fight well, Percy, and thank you. Super sweet.
It is super sweet. You know, it's interesting for me because it sounds like she keeps saying like force. She has like forces. So my think is she's trying to like have a Helms, like a Riders of Row and Helms Deep sort of thing happening.
Ooh, yeah.
I don't really, once again, I don't know. But
because it was so vague and Percy said, will she send help to like, what I thought Percy was asking is, does she have some sort of reinforcements that can help me?
That's what I'm thinking.
Right.
Yeah.
But because she didn't answer and because Percy is asking this, I wonder if she's going to have like some other thing. Like she's got some sort of like magical thing. Like the instinct is to think she has some sort of army of sorts or like a Gaggle of Mercenaries or whatever. Yeah. But Percy Jackson and the Gaggle of Mercenaries. But I feel like that's the misdirect, and there's going to be something else where she, I don't know, because Cersei's whole thing is
guinea pigs.
True, but also like she's witch potion and all that kind of stuff, right? Or I guess more like magical. Yeah, she does potion stuff too. I'm like, she's not Medea. I was like, but they both do potions, but she's got magical remedies and stuff like that. So I wonder if like Hilla, she's her Raina's older sister, right? Yeah, so I feel like she would maybe have experience with it. Maybe she studied under Cersei, so she knows some stuff. So like maybe the help is like, oh, drink this potion and, it's increase your movement speed by 15 meters and you get 3 extra attacks and a bonus action, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Or maybe it's like an army of guinea pigs.
That'd be so fun. That'd be really fun. Yeah.
I kind of want that to be the answer.
I mean, yeah, I think that would be very cool. Percy can tell that Raina needs some alone time to regain her composure, so he heads out, but he can't stop himself from turning around before he leaves out the door and asking, when I destroyed where you lived, what happened? Yeah, what did I do? How did I do that? The dogs growl, Raina silences them, and then explains that Percy destroyed the power of their mistress. He freed prisoners who took revenge on everyone who lived on the island. So my question, is that referring to the guinea pig dudes?
The pirates.
The pirates, because it was not just the guinea pigs, right? Because Annabeth had like magical candy, right? That like brought them back. Like, did she have like magical like jujubes or something? Vitamins, yes. Thank you. Right, yeah, from Hermes' bag. Cool. Yeah. So yeah, didn't she like pour like more than she needed in? And then they kind of left. So I guess the thought is this all happened off screen. Like Percy and Annabeth left. These dudes like ate the vitamins and then they were like, yo ho, and went to town.
If I recall, Blackbeard might have been involved, but it's
I-
been okay. I'm getting nods. Okay,
Yeah,
I was right.
Yes.
I was right. Yeah.
So that would be my guess as to what happens. This feels very much like next time around when we're in Seattle, like we'll get the full story. So I'm not like sweating it too much, but that's what I think is the situation. So it at least made me feel good of when I was reading this. I was like, I didn't forget the sea of monsters, right? So it feels like we're doing all right. And by we, I mean my brain. Raina says it was tough, but they survived, and it's probably for the best that they are away from their old home anyway. But Percy apologizes nonetheless, and Raina goes, an apology? Not very Roman at all, Percy Jackson. It's like, you are so close to getting it, Raina. You are right there.
The kid that fights different from everybody else with a different sword.
It's one of those, like, yes,
people.
obviously we know, but he fights different. Doesn't he call all the gods by their Greek names? Like, come on.
The ghosts are calling him Greek. I don't know why.
He keeps calling Mars Ares. What's the deal? Why does he keep putting tzatziki sauce on all of his food? He won't stop talking about olive oil. Yeah, like, come on. Jeez. He has that blue eye thing on his keychain. Oh, yeah. So she then says, you'd make an interesting praetor. I hope you'll think about my offer. So interesting way to end the chapter, which I have retitled, Turn Down, period. For what? Thank you. I was really proud of that one on the Amtrak. Did a little silent fist bump to myself as the person next to me in the quiet car continued their 48-minute phone conversation. Sat next to her because she was the only person on the train with an N95, and I was like, you're my kind of girl. And then she talked on the phone for more than half of the ride in the quiet car. Unforgivable. Anyway, what would you retitle chapter 15?
So you want to be friends?
Great, cool, beautiful. Let's continue on. We'll do chapter 16, or at least part of it before intermission. So, chapter 16, also called Percy, but we will retitle it. It opens with, quote, lunch felt like a funeral party. Everybody ate. People talked in hushed tones. Nobody seemed particularly happy. The other campers kept glancing over at Percy like he was the corpse of honor. And I was just imagining, like, I know this is not what the point of this is, but I'm imagining people at a funeral eating and then looking over at the casket with disdain, like, oh my God.
Oh, poor guy.
Oh. Never liked him anyway. But also, I've been to a few funerals. Usually don't eat in the same room as the...
That's why they're so upset. It's
Yeah,
very...
oh my God, why he's looking at me? It's like the Mona Lisa. Yeah. But the other thing that I think is funny is just like, I don't understand how the people at this camp see Percy Jackson and the other two who also held their own in the war games, see the three of them absolutely dominate the war games and then get sent on the quest and they're like, oh, cohort 5 ruins everything. They're not going to be able to do anything. He made every water cannon explode. Hazel tunneled underground. They rode an elephant into the thing and destroyed everything. And they're like, these guys can't do anything. What are you talking about? Were you not all there? Wait, everyone was there. I don't understand.
And it was just recently Jason's squad.
I was so, you're all right there. You're right there. I don't get, yeah, right, yes. Jason was also there too. He's good. Like, God, they're, cohort 5, here they go again. Like, ridiculous.
Greeks and geeks.
Yeah, ridiculous. And Greeks. So, Raina then gives a quick speech of good luck. Octavian gives these grave omens from a Beanie Baby and says that hard times are ahead, but the camp will be saved by an unexpected hero. And the narrator Percy then says, whose initials were probably Octavian. Those are not initials.
Yeah.
That's just a name. But also here's another like Babe Ruth pointing to center field calling shot moment. Babe Ruth was a baseball player.
He liked to call his shots.
Yeah, he did it. He did it at one time. But my big point here is that the unexpected hero is going to be Tyson. Because I think Tyson's showing up. They've already referenced, like, Tyson's on his way. Don't leave. So it feels like, initially I was thinking, like, oh, Tyson, water. Maybe he'll find his way up to Alaska. But if Tyson's whole thing is, like, come into Camp Jupiter, I could see Feast of Fortuna, battles coming around, and then Tyson just does, like, a big punch when it seems like things are bad. So that could be the unexpected hero. We'll just have to see. I don't know.
Hope so. I love Tyson.
I hope he comes. It feels like he's coming back. It's just a matter of when. Will he show up in Alaska? Will he show up at Camp Jupiter? Will he show up at the very end to kind of usher in the plot of the third book? Many things are at play. The campers then go off for their afternoon classes, which all sound cool because it's like fighting people and playing paintball with ghosts. And I was like, damn, why did I have to take multivariable calculus? Ugh.
I don't know, but they also did Latin. I saw that.
Very excited about that. So then Percy, Hazel, and Frank go to pack. Percy cleans up his backpack and he keeps most of his bargain mart supplies in there. He's got an extra purple shirt and jeans. He's got nectar, ambrosia, snacks, money, and camping supplies. And he also has a scroll of introduction from Reyna and the Senate, which he can show to any retired legionnaire along the way, and they will help the team. He leaves his orange shirt on his bunk and then says, "I'll be back." And the narrator Percy says, he felt pretty stupid talking to a t-shirt, but he was really thinking about Annabeth and his old life. Ooh. And then Percy continues, "I'm not leaving for good, but I have to help these guys. They took me in, they deserve to survive," which I think is very sweet. And I think that's a sentiment that I can understand. Like, I am fiercely loyal when I first meet someone that I really like and trust. So I think that this is cool that Percy is doing this. He's a good egg that right away is like, yeah, these people are good to me. I want to be good to them. Yeah, I got my old life, but I also have this new life and I want to do right by them.
Yeah, it's really touching, and it's also great to see that it's like without all of his memories, Percy's still Percy.
Right, and this is what gives me a lot of confidence. I think I said this in an earlier episode, but people were worried like, oh, when Jason gets his memories back, is he going to be a different person? I think this is kind of like proof of concept that if he is still Percy, then Jason, before memory wipe, was also a good dude. So we've got two good dudes in this exchange. I'm very excited about this. Then Percy, as the narrator says, quote, "The t-shirt didn't answer, thankfully." So good, so good. So one of the roommates, Bobby, and I was like, Bobby! He got referenced at the end of The Lost Hero! Bobby! Yeah! Hi, Bobby! Bobby, who I very correctly predicted was not going to be one of the seven, or at least it would be a wild come up if he was. Bobby gives them a ride to the border on Hannibal the elephant, and Percy looks out over the camp and he takes in its beauty and he thinks about how it's just another normal day here at Camp Jupiter, but then he looks out onto the horizon and storm clouds are gathering, as they always do in these books before the big terrible thing happens.
So do you think, like, as he's leaving, does he wonder if, like, the camp looks suspiciously like Long Island, despite being on the West Coast?
What do you mean? Like,
sorry. This was me setting up a really dumb joke.
A reverse of how they always film Camp Half-Blood in Vancouver?
Yes. Because it's like, even in the movie and the show.
Well, yeah. They filmed it in Canada. The tax breaks for filming there are just so good.
I just have to insist, if we ever get to a live-action Camp Jupiter, they must film the camp on Long Island. It only makes sense.
That would be so good. That'd be so good. It'd be so good. So, yeah, he looks out, thinks about all of this, and then he understands why Reyna wants so badly to protect this safe haven for demigods, young and old. He thinks about sharing this place with Annabeth, and I just wrote my notes, she's never going to go for that. There's no Annabeth. Chase is going to be like, yeah, let's settle down in this college town and never leave. No, dude. No way. She's got to go build buildings and stuff. Come on, bro. Bobby drops them off, and then Terminus asks them for IDs, and Percy thought that he only guarded the city, and he says, "Glad to see you too, Mr. Rule Flouter. Normally, yes, I guard the city, but for international departures, I like to provide extra security at the camp borders. You really should have allowed 2 hours before your planned departure time, you know, but we'll have to make do. Now come over here so I can pat you down." First thing, I was like, international, aren't they going to allow? Oh, right, yeah, because they're going to have to cross through Canada at some point, I'm assuming. But also, you know who would love Terminus? My dad, Joel P. Schubert. Oh, he loves getting to the airport early. Loves it. And I do too. But I love getting to the airport. Like, I try to arrive an hour before boarding. I feel like that is early and safe, but not ridiculous, especially because I have TSA pre-check. Like, pretty chill. Hour before boarding is usually like an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes before the flight. You're usually in good hands. You're going to be fine. You're going to have enough time to like swing by even a lounge if you have lounge access, get some food, and then like, boom, you're good to go. But my dad wants to get there like, when does the airport open? Like, he wants to get there so early. So I think Joel would absolutely love Terminus.
I also have TSA pre-check.
That's good. It's good. So he says he wants to do this pat down. So Percy then goes, "But you don't have, sure." And then narrator Percy says, "Terminus conducted a rigorous mental pat down." And I just wrote my notes here. Rick is cooking with gas. Like, he's just doing, this book is so fun and he's doing so well writing the whole thing. But specifically when it's narrator Percy chapters, they're just really fun. He's really hitting it. It's just great.
Yeah, I remember like texting you when I was opening up this book, and it was just like, the minute Percy was back, it was like I was amongst old friends, wrapped in a cozy blanket. It was just really nice to have him back.
Yeah, I think in this conversation we also said we didn't realize how much we missed Percy until he came back. Like the whole time I was reading The Lost Hero, I was like, yeah, this is fun. It's good. Like, I don't know why people don't like it so much. And then I read like 5 pages, not even 5 words of Percy. And I was like, oh, right. Yeah, I get it. I totally get it, of course. So, yeah, I totally understand. Terminus asks if he has anything to declare, and Percy says, I declare that this is stupid. Never change, Percy. Terminus gets offended, and he checks their IDs. He asks if Hazel has any precious metals to declare. She says no, and then he goes, oh, well, last time. And then she goes, no! And then after checking Frank and complimenting his haircut, which means his haircut probably sucks, Terminus asks him if he needs directions. And like every white man over the age of 45, after Frank says no, he gives the directions anyway, which, look, Joel loves to do this. People that used to be like higher ups at my engineering company love to do this. They would always love to be like, oh, here's how you should get to the airport. It'd be like, Google knows better than you. They know where the traffic is actively. I'm going to listen to Google. And they're like, oh, you should do this. I'd be like, no, I should not. No, I should not, Kevin. I'm not going to do that. And then eventually I just started like nodding and we're like, oh yeah, that sounds good. And then I'd just be like, all right, Google, where are we going? I don't think Kevin listens to the podcast, so I think I'm okay. So he instructs them of what BART route to take. Shout out to the BART getting mentioned. Percy is surprised that they don't have a magical BART train of sorts. And I don't know where he's getting this. It's not like they have a magical Long Island Railroad train for Camp Half-Blood. So I don't understand this standard that he set for them.
I mean, I think he's just like, I don't have any memories. Maybe this is real.
Yeah. He's just like, what, you guys don't have a unlimited ice cream machine here? What are you talking about? Huh? Terminus then says, magic trains? You'll be wanting your own security lane and a pass to the executive lounge next. Which I love that the airport jokes just like keep coming and coming. Just travel safely and watch out for polyboats or polybites? Polybites is how they say it later on. Watch out for polybites. Talk about scofflaws. Bah! I wish I could throttle him with my bare hands. Terminus is great. I'm a big fan. I need Terminus and Coach Hedge and Vitellius to just all have a conversation. Yes. It'd be so great. Thankfully, Percy goes, who? And Terminus does not answer. He just warns for them to be careful of him. So then they get forced beyond the boundary of the camp, and when they look back, the camp appears to be missing, very Camp Half-Blood, Strawberry Fields sort of thing. And Percy then asks Frank and Hazel if they know who he was talking about. I love Percy's dedication to leaving no stone unturned. And Hazel says she's never heard of polybites, and the book explains that she sounds it out, po-lib-a-tees, because she was sounding it out. And I was like, could we do this for every character? Can Hazel always say people's names? I would personally love to have this around so that I don't have to record 50 episodes of a podcast, and then Dr. Moy would be like, you're saying it wrong. So much easier. So Frank says, sounds Greek, and Percy goes, that narrows it down. Percy's already being very sassy, and I'm here for it. Percy says that they should get moving because they are now on the radar of every monster within 5 miles just because of their smell alone. And then Percy states that they arrived at the Alameda docks after 2 hours. And I was thinking, 2 hours? And then I went onto Google Maps, and it is like a long walk to go from where they are to like the first BART station, so it does end up making sense. But before we get into like this whole travel and how this all goes, we will take our break for intermission. Ooh. But if you are listening to the podcast after the fact, we will take our break for our mid-roll break, the Son of Fortune. So let's all say, yeah, right? Pretty good, huh? We'll all say goodbye to the podcast people now. Goodbye, podcast people. Hello and welcome to the Son of Fortune Shubio edition, back in the Shubio, back with some updates about the podcast. So let's get into those podcast updates first. I forgot to mention this in the past couple of mid-roll breaks just because I was putting those together very quickly, but I wanted to wish nothing but the best for anyone who's affected by the wildfires going on in LA. It is absolutely devastating to see what was happening and the damage, and I just hope everybody is safe and everyone's doing okay and your loved ones are okay. What I'm going to do is donate some money already to some mutual aid funds that are helping out folks affected by the fires. So last time we donated to charity, it was $700 for the Marsha P. Johnson Institute. I'm going to donate $700 to these various mutual aid funds, and then I'll see what the numbers end up being the next time we do one of those, we're taking a week off and donating $1 for every 1,000 downloads that the show got in between. But rather than wait a couple of months and donate, I figure let's just donate now and then figure out what the amount should / should have been later. So I just wanted to let people know that I'm thinking of you. I'm hoping everything's going to be okay for you all. And I'm wishing you nothing but the best, and also using the podcast charity funds to try and help some folks in need. Now, I do have updates merchandise-wise for the podcast. We've got a new enamel pin and some new notebooks, and I'm going to work to get a shipment of those to the online merch store so that people listening from wherever can order them. I'm not going to get into too much detail about them now since you can't purchase them, but you can purchase them at the upcoming live shows that I'm doing, because I will be bringing them to the live shows. So we've got a bunch of shows coming up in the near future. We've got 3 in February, and if you saw, I posted on Instagram what chapters we'll be covering at those shows. So February 1st, we'll be in Hartford, Connecticut with Emily and Phoebe from Monster Donut. We'll be covering the Son of Neptune chapters 29 and 30. Then February 9th, we'll be in Baltimore, Maryland with Baltimore's own Sherry Guo. That's a half TNO, half Potterless show. We'll be covering chapters 32 and 33 for the TNO portion. And then we'll be doing a recap of the wild Harry Potter iPhone game and its absurd plot for the Potterless portion. And then on February 23rd, I'll be in Richmond, Virginia with Johnny Frolickstein. That is another half TNO, half Potterless show. For the TNO half, we'll be covering chapters 34 and 35 of The Son of Neptune. And then the Potterless portion, Johnny and I are going to do Wizard on Squid Game. So you can get tickets to all of those shows at theuniversalolympian.com/live. If you are considering going to the Richmond show, I would say get tickets now. Last time I looked, there's like 20 tickets left. So get on that if you want to get them. The other 2 are not at risk of selling out, but you should definitely come through because those shows are going to be fantastic, and they'll have those new merchandise items and a bunch of other things. And just overall, it's going to be a blast. So head on over to theuniversalolympian.com/live to get tickets to those shows. And as I've been doing recently, going to try to film those shows and put them up on the Patreon. Did that with this episode. If you want to see the video version of this Philly/Doylestown live show, you can go to theuniversalolympian.com/Patreon. And if you join any TNO tier, you'll get access to that video. I have now mentioned the Patreon, so let's give a shout out to the folks who've joined the Patreon most recently. Shout out to our new Super God tier patron, Brit of Olympus. And shout out to our newest Demigod tier patrons, Silverfang 2024 and Sojo Row. Also, shout out to Silver Parka Envy, who upgraded their pledge. Thank you all so much for your support. May Hestia bless you that if you are getting spicy food, you get just the right level to where you can handle it, and you aren't in a situation where your eyes hurt and your nose is running and all that kind of stuff. You manage that spice level well. She's the goddess of heat, right? Now, if you're all caught up on the News Olympian and you're looking for some new content to consume, you are in luck, because I make a whole bunch of content and I think you will enjoy the content that I make. One of the things that I've made is one that was referenced earlier in this mid-roll break. It's Potterless. Potterless was a show that I made before the News Olympian. It was me going through the Harry Potter books for the very first time, and it was a really fun time. There's over 211 episodes that you can listen to, so there's tons and tons of audio out there, and I make my way through the books. I do the movies, I do the spin-off stuff, I do fan-made stuff, especially after J.K. Rowling became publicly a horrible person and I didn't want to support her anymore. So lots of different things to listen to in that realm, and you can listen to them by searching for Potterless wherever you get your podcasts, or by going to potterlesspodcast.com. Great thing to do if you're all caught up on TNO and you're really trying to marathon through stuff in the days in between. Now, unless you're listening on Patreon where you get access to ad-free episodes, you're going to hear words from a few sponsors make it feasible for me to be a full-time podcaster. Some of those ads will be read by me, such as by our repeat sponsor for 2025, Pretty Litter, who does fantastic cat litter and cat toys, but some of the ads won't be read by me. Those are inserted locally. So if you live in Rwanda, don't be surprised if you hear an ad in Kenya, Rwanda, French, or English, all listed as official languages. But once this ads are complete, we'll get back into this episode of the News Olympian. Wow. Hope everyone had a wonderful intermission. I missed you all so dearly. Let's get into Act 2, do as much as we can do. Cool. So they were about to go on the BART adventure. So what they do is they let us know, as narrator Percy is like, oh yeah, it took us 2 hours. And then he takes us back to the beginning of the trip. So he says that there were no monster attacks on this trip. Quote, nobody looked at Percy like he was a homeless wild child. Percy, you ever been on the BART? There's always something weirder happening on the BART than you, no matter what. And fun fact, if you're going on the BART and you ever hear something that an elevator is out of service, it means someone pooped in the elevator. So, yeah, it's like when the McFlurry machine is down. People don't poop in the McFlurry machine. They lie to you and they say the McFlurry machine isn't working when really it's just they've already cleaned it. But I think they passed some law nationally to make it to where there was something I feel like I saw on social media that was like McFlurry machines, they can people can decide for their own now.
Is that McDonald's can fix their own McFlurry machines? It used to be that the people who manufacture had a monopoly on the pieces, but now they're able to fix their own McDonald's.
Okay, so for anyone that couldn't hear, McDonald's used to not be able to fix their own machines. They had to get someone else to do it. There was a monopoly, but now McDonald's can fix their own machines. Yay, one corporation, but here's a monopoly.
Extend right to repair to the public.
Yeah, power to the people! Let me get in there with a wrench if I want one. I don't know what I'm doing. I just need ice cream. So Frank has his spear, his bow, and his quiver in a ski bag. And Hazel has her cavalry sword wrapped in her bedroll and slung over her back. So to the untrained eye, they just look like a bunch of high schoolers going on an overnight trip. Quote, they walked to Rock Ridge Station, bought their tickets with mortal money, and hopped on the BART train. Now, I wrote, the walk alone to Rock Ridge Station is about 2 hours. Like, it is not, you can't just, it's not just like, oh yeah, they walked to the station. They went on a hike to the station. Like, it is hard. There's like a big highway and hills. Like, it is not an easy route. So
Well, Percy did pack snacks.
that's true. So he's fine. But also, Rock Ridge Station is fun because that's one of the ones that I would use quite a bit. It's like in Oakland. So they took the Rock Ridge train. They like transfer in Oakland and they go to Alameda. People in the Bay Area know what's going on. Everyone else is like, please stop talking about this. Narrative Percy.
No, tell me, how does the BART compare to the New York City subway system?
It is nice in that it goes very far. It's obviously worse, like it's no question, way worse. But it's like definitely better than other cities that I've lived. The main issue that I have with the BART is that it doesn't run 24 hours. That sucks. And like the whole thing is like, oh, we repair it overnight so that it doesn't have delays and stuff. I'm like, yeah, but also I don't have to like leave the bar at 11:37 p.m. if I'm out doing stuff. So that was annoying of having to like catch the last BART home. Whereas New York is just like the worst case scenarios. You're like, oh, I got to wait 30 minutes for a G train or whatever. But like at least a train is coming. Do you guys even have trains in Philly? Is it? Yo, nice, good, thank you. I was gonna say, you're saying SEPTA like it's good, but I don't know that it is. Its name is SEPTA. They go on strike tomorrow? Power to the people, let's go. Cool, awesome. Anyway, SEPTA, every time they say SEPTA, it just sounds like septic, and it just can't. If you sound like crap, how good can you be? Narrator Percy says, they got off in Oakland, they had to walk through some rough neighborhoods, but nobody bothered them. Whenever the local gang members came close enough to look in Percy's eyes, they quickly veered away. He'd perfected his wolf stare over the last few months, a look that said, however bad you think you are, I'm worse. After strangling sea monsters and running over gorgons in a police car, Percy wasn't scared of gangs. Pretty much nothing in the mortal world scared him anymore. Now, I did live in the Berkeley, Oakland area for about 7 months. I personally walked many places, never ran into a gang. So I think this might be like old guy writing a book about Oakland. Because at least to my knowledge, that's not like a huge concern of just like walking around this part. Like, sure, there definitely are some rough neighborhoods, but it's not like you're walking by and you're like, oh no, gang violence. Like you're just transferring trains? Like, all right, man.
I don't know.
Now,
Like, how close did they get? Like, how close do you see the craziness in your eyes? Like,
that's how you really get someone to not mess with you. Don't mess with me. So when they arrive at the docks, Percy looks out onto the bay, and he's excited because they're going to be in his father's domain. So they're just going to have advantage over any foe that comes across them. And he starts scanning the boats for a trireme or the boat from his dreams that he saw, the Argo 2 Judgment Day that Leo's working on. Nothing jumps out to him. So he asks Hazel and Frank if they know what they're looking for. And Hazel says, I didn't even know we had a navy. And then Frank points out something and goes, oh, you don't think? And it is a tiny little dinghy covered in a purple tarp with SPQR. And I just wrote, oh no, not a tongue-in-cheek navy. It makes sense. The Romans were land people. I should have known. Like, I should have known that when they said you'll have the full Roman navy, they meant one boat. It's just a metal rowboat. It doesn't even have oars. A fun note is that Percy unties the knots with ease, so I'll have to keep that stored away for way in the future when I start doing the silly like improvised live shows like I did with Potterilla stuff. Like if I do Percy Jackson Survivor, Percy's going to be elite at the challenges because they always have to untie knots in Survivor. They're always untying knots. So he's good at that. That's fun, a little nautical power for him. And the paint on this boat is faded, but the name Pax is visible. Since I took Latin in high school, this means peace. And there are eyes painted on the boat, and they're at sea level, so it looks like the boat's about to go to sleep. The boat has 2 benches on the inside, a thing of steel wool, a cooler, frayed rope, and a plastic bag filled with empty Coke floating in scummy water. So fun. Seems like a cool vessel. Mm-hmm. Frank says, "Behold, the mighty Roman Navy," which is great. Hazel thinks that this has to be a mistake because this thing is just a piece of junk. And then Percy thinks of Octavian laughing at them, but he decides not to let it get to him. Percy having a very mature approach to the Octavian conundrum. And the reason that Percy is not worried is because at the end of the day, Pax is a boat, and his dad is the god of the sea. So how bad can things really be? He points at the steel wool, and it scrubs the boat clean. He points at the rope, and the boat unties itself from the dock. And he's not worried about the lack of oars because he can tell that he'll be able to control it. He can just feel like this boat is ready for him to tell it where to go. He then just says, "This'll do, hop in." And Frank and Hazel are shocked, but they do climb in. Hazel looks extra nervous, which we will soon understand why. Then the sleepy Gia voice enters Percy's brain, and the boat begins to rock. They're already out on the waters at this point. And she says that Juno was right, and that Percy would have been safe if he stayed in Camp Jupiter. But then she says, quote, "Now it's too late. You chose pain and misery. You're part of my plan now, my important little pawn." And I refuse to believe that Percy is going to go along and be her little pawn unless she does some uncontrollable, he couldn't defeat it, take over him sort of thing, like Riku in Kingdom Hearts, where we have like Dark Percy and then he's got to fight Jason. Like, I don't think Percy is going to be tricked into doing anything. I think if anything happens, it's going to be some sort of situation where it's like some magical power that he had no chance of beating has possessed him into being an evil version of himself. So unless she's doing that, I don't think he's going to be her little pawn. But that's just me. Where are you at? Since you also don't know.
I also don't know, but now you're just making me think, like, is there going to be a nobody version of Percy running around?
So when you
for some reason
lose,
has an X
when
in
you
his
lose
name.
your soul in Kingdom Hearts, your body becomes a heartless and your soul becomes a nobody because you have no
body.
God, now it's just been too long. I think
Exactly.
I think that's gosh, Kingdom Hearts.
You become one and then the other. And for some reason,
There's one for each.
each.
When the thing happens, it creates one of each. Yeah, the games are so good. But now I haven't played in like a year, so that memory is just gone. Gosh.
It's all right. There's a bunch of YouTube videos that'll help you out.
And they're all 7 hours long. So.
But it's all critical information.
It is all very important information. After she says this, Percy then mutters aloud, "Get off my ship." And Frank goes, what? And Percy replies, "Nothing. Let's see what this rowboat can do." And I feel like, given the description of the rowboat, it's very small. I feel like Frank definitely heard you say, "Get off my ship." Like, It does say in the narration that he growled, "Get off my ship." But I feel like it was definitely enough where Frank was like, huh? And I think it's funny, obviously, just with Percy hearing things and no one else hearing things. It's funny that he didn't describe it. Percy was just like, they probably didn't hear me. Like, I don't know, this feels like a small boat.
Yeah.
Narrator Percy then ends the chapter by saying, quote, "He turned the boat to the north, and in no time they were speeding along at 15 knots, which that could mean anything. I have no idea what that means. That could be really fast. That could be really slow. I couldn't tell you anything about it. Is 15 knots fast? Not really.
It is a dinghy.
15 knots. Let's Google it. 15 knots, 2 miles per hour. 17.2 miles per hour. Yes, nah.
It's walking, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, not sprinting if you're fast enough. Yeah, that's okay.
It's going to take a while to get to Seattle.
Yeah, it's going to take a bit, but we'll have to see. But yes, they are going at 15 knots, which means something, and they're heading for the Golden Gate Bridge. So that is the end of chapter 16, which I've retitled, "We Control the Navy," because at the beginning you would think that's impressive, and by the end you realize, it's just one boat. Do you have a retitling?
I have a similar one. Just like, I become supreme ruler of the Roman
of the waters or of the Navy?
Of the Roman Navy.
Oh, yeah. What's like the highest level of Navy? Like
probably Commodore?
Captain? Admiral?
Admiral?
Admiral's the guess. Let's see. The Admiral. Yes. Okay, the Admiral. So where's Admiral Crunch? Okay. So... let's get into as much of Chapter 17 as we can do. Chapter 17 is called Hazel. We will retitle it, but we're not going to finish this chapter on the stage, so you'll have to wait for the future. Everyone at the show is going to have to wait like months. So The beginning of this chapter is, quote, Hazel hated boats. Yeah, we figured. So she says that she hates boats. She hates boats because she gets seasick so easily that she calls it sea plague. She's hidden this from Percy out of fear of messing up the quest, but she thinks back to her life in Alaska with her mom. No roads, all trains and boats. And this is exactly how I live my life in New York City. No roads, just subways and ferries. But also, Hazel, please tell us about Alaska. I really hope you tell us about Alaska, is what I wrote here. And thankfully, that's the rest of the chapter to my knowledge. So yeah, she was hoping that her condition of seasickness would have improved since returning from the dead, but nope, still sucks. Not good at being on a boat, especially in such a small boat. Now she is woozy by the time they pass the San Francisco Embarcadero piers, which is like, that's a good enough distance. It's not like they got a little bit and then she was like, oh, but still, she's not far. They have not escaped the Bay Area and they're trying to go to Seattle. So they've got quite a ways away. They pass lounging sea lions, which is very accurate. That is what they do up there. And Hazel swears that she sees an old homeless guy laying among them. So it's Nereus, right? That was his name? Yeah.
I meant to look this up, but I don't remember.
Pretty sure Nereus is his name.
There's nods. There's nods.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Look at me go. I can remember things. Wee! So he then points a bony finger at Percy and mouths something that looks like, don't even think about it. Hazel asks, what's up with this? And Percy knows that he's been here before on a rescue mission for Annabeth, but that is it. Frank asks if this was when he was on his way to Camp Jupiter, and Percy says, no, it was from the before times. And as they pass under the Golden Gate Bridge, Hazel tries to settle her stomach by thinking happy thoughts, like winning the war games and riding Hannibal, and Frank suddenly becoming a leader. And she opened this book with like, I don't have any feelings for Frank, and then immediately has very obvious feelings for Frank. Narrator Hazel says, quote, he looked like a different person when he'd scaled the walls, calling on the 5th cohort to attack, the way he'd swept the defenders off the battlements. Hazel had never seen him like that before. She'd been so proud to pin the Centurion's badge to his shirt. Like, okay, yeah, this took one chapter? Cool, yeah, all right, Hazel, cool. She then...
Maybe they can be friends.
Oh, yeah, or... Friends. Friends. She then thinks of Nico, who had wished her luck before they left. She was hoping that he would stay at camp long enough to defend from the impending battle, but he said that he was leaving as well. He had to go for the underworld to help out Pluto. His reasoning is that Pluto needs all the help that he can get because the fields of punishment look like a prison riot. The Furies are having trouble keeping order, and he's also going to try and track some of the escaping souls in hopes of finding the doors of death. So I think that's good. Could be very useful for their Thanatos-related mission. So I at least, like, I understand why Hazel doesn't want him to leave, but for me and the quest, I think he's more useful for our trio here than he is just like being an NPC and just like walking in a square pattern for 4 days until the Feast of Fortuna.
Yeah. You know what also be useful? Maybe telling all of his friends where the hell Percy is.
Yeah, but look.
There must be a reason, but...
I mean, I would believe the reason is like, it's prophecy-related stuff, right? It's just like, this is how it has to happen. We got to make it work. Like, we need Percy to be like Jason, get fully entrenched and fully fall in love with Camp Jupiter, and then be like, ha ha ha. Like, Nico understands that, like, you got to keep the plan together. He understands the long game. Hazel warns Nico about the doors of death because if Gia is guarding them, that's probably going to be a tough situation for you. And Nico tells her not to worry because he's adept at staying hidden. He tells her to watch herself, especially as she approaches Alaska. Quote, I'm not sure if it'll make the blackouts better or worse. And I wrote, the blackouts? And soon we learn about the blackouts. Hazel laughs at the notion that this quest will be anything but horrible for her. And Hazel tells Nico that if they free Thanatos, she may never see him again because surely Thanatos would send her back to the underworld. And I feel like it's possible, but maybe not. But then I got worried, oh no, because of the great prophecy. There's the whole oath to keep with a final breath sort of thing. I was previously worried that it was going to be Frank because what we learned with his stick of doom is that he might die very easily, but now Hazel also might die very easily. So we have two new people introduced, but very quickly established, like, don't know how long they're going to last. So I don't feel good about either of them making it out of this series.
I mean, they're all demigods. So they've all all got a pretty high likelihood of just...
That is also true. That is also true. And I guess that does bring to question, because I've been trying to figure out like who's the seven, and I kind of feel like there's too many contenders, and I'm now with there being two people that might die, like maybe it makes the selection process easier if there's one less, but I don't know.
Less options.
The problem is, at least for me, there's too many Greek people that are in contention for me, because we already know it's going to be Leo and Piper, and then we would assume Percy and Annabeth, but like that's already more than half being Greek. What is Nico? I feel like he could be the nice like middle ground of the seven, but then like we only need 3 Greeks, so like does Annabeth not count? Like that feels weird. Does Percy not count? Like I don't know. So I'm not sure, and I'm
I don't either.
Yeah, well, I'm not looking at the crowd.
Nice.
I can't see anything.
I genuinely don't know.
So narrator Hazel then says, Nico took her hand. His fingers were so pale, it was hard to believe that Hazel and he shared the same godly father. This is cool. I like the establishing of children of the same parent can look wildly different. That's fun. Makes it easier for casting purposes in the Percy Jackson TV show. So I don't know if Rick was thinking like, maybe one day. He tells her that he wanted to give her a chance at Elysium. He says it was the best he could do for her, but now he wishes there was another way because he doesn't want to lose his sister. So with this, is he saying there's not going to be a way to like bring you back to life? Because Elysium, you have to live like 3 good lives.
No,
right?
that's the Isle of the Blessed.
Oh,
so
that's the
Elysium
Isle
is
of the
just
Blessed.
Like, you did good, kid.
Okay. But he's thinking, I guess he's saying this because she's not supposed to live for much longer. So he's like, oh, you haven't lived like long enough of a life to earn Elysium? I guess I'm just wondering why he's like, oh, I wanted to give you the chance. Like it's a foregone conclusion that it won't happen.
My impression, once again, having I only gotten up to the end of this chapter,
right,
was that when she was in the underworld prior, because she had been dead,
correct,
that she wasn't in Elysium.
Yes.
So I think he was just saying that like this time you might get it.
Oh, okay. Oh,
he wanted to give her a shot.
I've done this to give you a shot at Elysium.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's I wanted to do this. That's why I have done it. Not, damn, you are going to die soon. I wanted to do this. Okay,
yeah, no,
gotcha.
It's like you're back because I wanted to give you a shot at it. At least that's how I interpret it.
Okay, no, I think you're right. I think you're right. It makes all of this make way more sense. But yeah, he says he doesn't want to lose his sister. And then, okay, yeah. So I guess what he's saying is like, the best I could do for you is bring you back so that you can do something good so that when you do die again, you can be out of here. Because then he says that he doesn't want to lose his sister. He doesn't say again, but Hazel knows that he's thinking it. He knows there is an implied again. And now for a change, Hazel is not jealous of Bianca as she normally is. Instead, she just wishes that she could have had more time at camp with Nico and all of her friends. And she also doesn't want to die a second time. Doesn't sound fun. I don't think I'd want to do it twice, so I get it. In the present now, they are passing Marin County, and Frank's ski bag is across his lap like he's on an amusement ride, which makes her think of a time that Sammy brought her to a Mardi Gras carnival, but she shoves this memory away because she doesn't want to risk a blackout. And now I'm realizing, okay, clearly it seems like if she thinks too much about her past, she will black out, which of course is bad, even though it would tell us stuff about her backstory. But of course, it's very bad, and we don't want this to happen to Hazel too much. Frank asks if she's okay because she looks a little woozy. She says that it's seasickness and explains that she didn't think it would be so bad. Frank pouts as if it's his fault, which is something I can relate to. Like, even if something's not my fault, but it feels like my trip. Like, if I was going somewhere with Kelly and it was more of a me thing, like seeing a concert or a local podcaster or something. Like if we were going and doing something and she was like, I left my chapstick at home, I'd be like, I should have thought of that. What if her lips are yeah, I totally get this. So he feels bad, like it's still his fault. He rummages around in his bag. He says that he has nectar and crackers. He wishes that he had his grandmother's ginger because that always works. Hazel smiles and says that it's all good, but she appreciates the effort. And he tries to pull out a saltine, but it snaps in his fingers and dust goes all over the place. And Hazel laughs and immediately apologizes for laughing. And he says, no problem. Guess you don't want that one. They're cute. They're very cute. I like it. I like it a lot. Percy's not paying attention at all, which is very funny because I'm imagining this boat is very small. So like this whole thing is happening and Percy's just like staring out onto the coast. Yeah. So they pass Stinson Beach and he points inland at a single mountain and says, that looks familiar. And it's got to be Mount Tam. And the very next line of the book is Frank going, Mount Tam. Frank says that kids at camp talk about it all the time because there was a big battle on the summit at the old Titan base. And Percy asks if either of them were there. And Hazel says no, but Jason told her about it. Quote, the Legion destroyed the enemy's palace and about 1 million monsters. Jason had to battle Krios, hand-to-hand combat with a Titan, if you can imagine. And then Percy mutters, I can imagine. He's so intense. But I think it's actually funny and an interesting way for us to learn about Percy because we always think of him as this lighthearted, jovial guy, and he's cracking all these jokes and blah, blah, blah. But when you take a step back, you realize a lot of that stuff that he's doing is when he is the narrator. So if you try to think of Percy Jackson without all of his narrator jokes, which is kind of, I guess, like Percy Jackson on the TV show, like when he doesn't have all of these jokes, you think like, oh, this guy's like kind of serious. So I wonder if, Percy might have said this, but also if it was a narrator Percy chapter, might have thought some sort of joke of sorts in addition to this. But for the other people, it's like, okay, Percy, all right. So Hazel isn't really sure what he means by this, but she does think that Percy reminds her of Jason. And I appreciate that Rick is not denying that the similarities exist between them, because they are similar, but they also have their differences. Narrator Hazel says, quote, they had the same aura of quiet power plus a kind of sadness, like they'd seen their destiny and knew it was only a matter of time before they met a monster they couldn't beat. And Hazel thinks to herself that she understands the feeling, which I was like, is this an Alaska reference that we might learn about soon? Maybe, Hazel? And then she watches the sun set and thinks that she has less than a week to live. She believes that her journey ends by the Feast of Fortuna, whether the quest is successful or not. At this point, I was thinking, okay, are you laying hints? Am I forgetting something? Like, is it just, I guess, the Doors of Death thing? Like, she's just thinking, like, Doors of Death is going to happen. We're going to free Thanatos, so, like, I'm cooked, or I'm just going to die on the quest, right? Like, there's no other thing afoot at this point in the chapter.
Not that I know of.
Okay, cool. She starts thinking about her first death and the time leading up to it. And before she can stop herself, she blacks out. And I was like, oh, no, Hazel, are you sure? Oh, no. Are you
You're just
okay?
on a boat with safe people.
Oh, no. I hope, don't black out. No. So we get this flashback in the past. The rental house that they had in Alaska is a clapboard box suspended on pilings over the bay. I don't know what a clapboard box is, but I feel like the word clapboard box like paints the scene well enough. So they're on a box suspended on pilings over the bay. Everything shakes when the train from Anchorage passes by. Hazel falls asleep to the sound of water lapping against the rocks beneath the floorboards. So it seems like not an ideal situation. The wind makes the house creak and groan. It's not like a nice Victorian home that they're living in. It also is just one room. It's got a hot plate and an icebox for a kitchen, and then a corner of the room is curtained off for Hazel's bedroom in quotation marks. So this would cost $5,000 a month in New York City. She's got a mattress, she's got a storage chest, and she's pinned up drawings and old photos on the walls, but it just makes her homesickness even worse. Her mom is not home often. She doesn't go by Queen Mary anymore. Instead, she is Marie, the hired help. She cooks and cleans at a diner nearby for fishermen, railroad workers, and sometimes Navy officers. And she would return smelling of pine saw and fried fish, which is definitely something. Yeah. Narrator Hazel says, quote, at night, Marie Levesque. Levesque? Levesque?
That's what the audiobook said.
Then we're rolling with that, because they said Gia, so sure, they can't get anything wrong.
Yeah.
At night, Marie Levesque would transform. The voice, capital T, capital V, took over, giving Hazel orders, putting her to work on their horrible project. Narrator Hazel says that winter was the worst time of year because the voice. And now I'm realizing I can't just not think of like Blake Shelton.
Yeah.
Like, turning around in a chair ominously.
I want you for Team Blake.
Yeah, I've seen... I've watched 0 minutes of The Voice, but I just know they turn around dramatically. Yeah. So
Snoop Dogg's on this season. It's pretty great.
Oh man, now am I gonna have to watch? Do they have rappers, or is he trying to give singing advice?
No, he's giving like production advice.
Okay,
I guess, but
they should have a rapping season. That would
be pretty cool.
That'd be pretty good.
I'd be into that.
I'm gonna call NBC, ABC, Fox. Which channel is it on?
I think NBC.
NBC. All right, yeah. I'm going to call up Robert NBC. Hello. I have an idea. So, winter's the worst because The Voice is on television. The Voice is in season, and it will linger around for longer due to the constant darkness. Hazel is delighted when summer comes around, because the sun is up all the time, so she spends as much time in the sun as she can. She would stay away from home as much as possible, but she wouldn't walk around town because it's too small of a town. Rumors have already been spread by kids, and it's infiltrated the whole town. They believe her to be the child of a witch who lives in the shack, and the kids would tease her or throw bottles and rocks if she came too close. And these children seemed terrible, but then narrator Hazel says, quote, "And the adults weren't much better." I'm sorry, adults, what are we doing here? Are you throwing bottles and rocks at her also? Like that.
They might just be old school racist.
Oh, you're right. Because we're in the past and she's black.
Yes.
Never mind. That makes all of this make way more sense. Thank you. Hazel would think about how she could easily make their lives hell because there's so much gold in the hills, but she doesn't do it because honestly, she can't blame them. So she explained she would spend her days walking the hills. She attracted ravens, and that is certainly an ominous vibe. She would go on these huge climbs and drink water from snow melt waterfalls, and she would think of her father occasionally, wishing that he could come back to save her mother from The Voice and Gwen Stefani. I've seen 0 episodes, but I know enough to get by.
She's also on this season.
Oh, look, I know key things. Isn't Robin Thicke's stupid ass on this show too?
No, that's the Masked Singer.
God damn it! What are we doing? Why does he have a job? Why is he employed? He wasn't even the best part of Blurred Line. Anyway. She would wonder if the ravens worked for him, but then would think about how Pluto said that this land was outside of the god's domain and he couldn't protect her there. Sometimes her memories of her old life would feel so distant, it was like radio programs of Roosevelt discussing the war. And sometimes the locals would talk about the Japanese fighting in Alaskan outer lands, but that felt even farther away than her current predicament. Now, one day in the middle of the summer, she was out later than normal, and she's following a horse. And it looks like the one that she had ridden on her final day in New Orleans with Sammy. She wonders if it's the same horse, but she thinks, nah, surely it can't be. And it was eating something on the path, and part of her thinks that it may have been one of these gold nuggets that she would leave in her footsteps. She calls out to the horse and approaches it, but as she gets very close to it, it runs away. And it seems to be too well-groomed to be a stray horse. I know nothing about horses, but I was like, yeah, Hazel, you're correct, sure. I fully believe you. She then spent the rest of the day trying to catch this horse. And she lost track of time, which is easy to do because of the sun being up all of the time. There was a point in the day in which she stopped to get a drink of water, and she thought that it was 3 p.m. by the position of the sun. But then she heard a train whistle, which she knows is the 10 p.m. train. So she was off by 7 hours, which is a lot. So she immediately freaks out of, oh my gosh, I'm going to be in so much trouble. So then she asks the horse, are you trying to get me in trouble? And then the horse whinnies. And I was like, But then it, quote, sped away in a blur of black and tan, faster than forked lightning, almost too quick for her eyes to register. Hazel didn't understand how, but the horse was definitely gone. And I'm wondering, is this our good horse friend Tempest from The Lost Hero? And I'm, again, not looking at the crowd, but I need Tempest to come back so that Tempest can start dating Blackjack. So I am invested in the return of Tempest so that we can have the relationship with Blackjack. But
what would a Tempest Blackjack baby be named?
Blackjack Tempest Twister? Like it's like, because doesn't the sky get really dark when you have
I
like
think so.
A hurricane of sorts?
I got some nods. I don't know if they know what I know. But
Oh my God, did I get it right? Did I guess it? Did they get together and they have a child? Okay, right, I guess a horse baby? What's that baby horse called? Couldn't tell you.
Foal?
Why does everyone here know that? Wild.
Yeah.
All right, cool. I guess everybody. Did you guys all have to go to the Amish Country for field trips too? Or is that just me in Central Jersey? Oh, you live there? Oh, okay, cool. Did you ride a horse? Was there horse parking outside or no? Okay. Or do you actually live in the Amish Country?
She does now.
Are the pretzels still good? That's all I remember. Second grade, we'd go there on a field trip, and they turned buzzard and gave us pretzels. Again, I could talk about this forever, but we should continue. But I feel the kinship. Anyway, everyone knows things about horse. I know nothing.
I'm just from Texas.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I'm from Central Jersey, where we make fun of Boy Scouts for being dweebs. Then I moved to Texas, and I tried to make a joke about the Boy Scouts being dweebs, and every single person in my high school was an Eagle Scout. And I was like, oh, no, am I the weird one?
Yeah.
And I was.
How many people emailed you about the fact that like most Texans call soda Coke?
Wait, is this in reference to?
I know you did a whole thing on.
Well, here's the wild thing: is I did the show in Georgia. There was a heated debate at the Georgia live show of if people in Georgia call all soda Coke. People at the live show said, yes, we do that. Like, we just refer to all sodas Coke, which I think is a wild decision to make. I think that's ridiculous because there's so many other types of soda. Then after the show, someone came up to me and was like, I don't know what this person was talking about. They don't say that. So then I think I might have said in the mid-roll break, like, oh, but someone came up to me after the show and said this is not a thing. Yeah. And then people emailed and they're like, I don't know what that person was talking about. We definitely do that. And I'm like, I feel like the city of Atlanta or the state of Georgia needs to settle this and then get back to me because no one knows what's going on. Yeah. So why are you angry at me? Please leave me out of this.
Yeah. No, but it's a very Texas thing, though.
It is definitely a Texas thing to do because I came to deal with it when I worked at Papado Seafood Kitchen.
Yeah.
It was the first time I experienced it, and I was like, this is absurd. Why would you choose to do this? This makes no sense. This is so hard.
I don't know. It's just whatever type of Coke you want works out.
Dr. Pepper's not a type of Coke. It's a different... Okay, we have to talk about the book. So I hope this is Tempest quite a bit. Anyway, Percy Jackson. Now, in addition to my theory of this maybe being Tempest, or at least a magical horse and not a regular horse, is that there is a bit of steam on the ground where the horse was. So it seems like some sort of magical element is afoot. Then Hazel hears the train whistle again, so she rushes home to avoid being in even more trouble. But when she gets home, her mother's not there. And at first, she feels relieved. And when it said at first, I was like, that means she's about to feel worried. Context clues, reading comprehension. So then, immediately, she sees the wreckage of the house. Her curtain is down, her chest is open, her clothes have been tossed all about, her mattress is torn up, her gifted colored pencils are all broken, the one thing she had from her dad destroyed, and there is a note on the wall written in not her mother's handwriting that says, "Wicked girl, I'm waiting at the island, don't disappoint me." So I'm guessing the voice, when it possesses her, it also has different handwriting? Like, that's also the vibe? I guess, what is handwriting if not your written voice? So that happened. I know, deep, right? Yeah. So I'm at least assuming at this point, like, okay, if this feels like the voice possessing her mom, not like a third person has come in and been like, I've got your mom on the island. Bah.
Yeah, that'd be a complex story at that point.
Yeah, like a new person we haven't met yet. So then Hazel, after seeing this, just thinks, I don't want to go, but I know that I have to go, especially because apparently they are almost done with the task, according to the voice, which feels very much like, I don't know, like Mazora in Baldur's Gate 3, where it's like, just one more thing, and I promise I'll let Will free. Like any sort of evil person that has someone as the person doing their bidding, they're always one thing away. Like Baby Driver, it's like, well, you're one job away, and you're just always one job away forever. Like there's no ever getting out. So I don't know if that's a reputable source for them almost being done with the task, but at least Hazel is thinking maybe if we can just help her finish the task, she'll set my mom free.
So I did finish this chapter, so I'm going to just not say anything.
There you go. Yeah. I read a little bit more, but then got to a certain point where I was like, we're not going to get to this in the live show, so I won't go any further. So yeah. Full disclosure, I've not completely finished chapter 17, so we'll just keep on.
Now I am ahead of you again.
The balance
the
is
tables
back.
have turned.
We install a trapdoor during intermission. So Hazel took the rowboat and sailed out amongst chunks of ice that are there, even though it's the summer, because it is still Alaska. She gets to this black sand beach island, and narrator Hazel says, quote, if the island had a name, she didn't know it. Once, Hazel had made the mistake of asking the townsfolk, but they had stared at her like she was crazy. And apparently a fisherman told her that there's no way there's an island there because he's passed through the part of the water that she has described 1,000 times, and he says that he would have ran into this island. So very interesting situation of what's going on here. Do we have a Calypso's island, like it exists in a different realm sort of thing? It just feels like something magic is afoot. So she gets to the island, and then a raven lands on her boat as she pulls in. Again, ominous vibe. And its eyes gleam with intelligence. And the good thing about this is it makes what happens next less startling for her. It speaks, and it says, tonight, the last night. And she asks, are you my dad? And then it goes, the last night, tonight. And I like the reverse, and it could only make me think of the song from High School Musical 3, was it A Night of Our Lives, where it's like, tonight, the night, on the night of nights, two nights, getting ready, getting ready, which Kelly and I sing every single time we're getting ready, especially now that we have a daughter that we're getting ready. So it's like, all right, little one, time to get ready. And then we're like trying to put the onesie on to our actively crying baby, getting ready, because she's like, I hate sleeves, why? And then the sleeves are on. She's like, oh, okay, never mind. But yeah, that's all I can think of with the last night, tonight. Then narrator Hazel has this line, which we will end this section of the episode and the show with, quote, the last night, Hazel told herself, she decided to take it as a promise. No matter what she tells me, I will make this the last night. Dun, 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 dramatic cliffhanger. So that is where we will end this portion of the episode. If you're listening afterwards, we'll take another quick break and then we'll get into the Q&A. Hey, it's Mike here, just with one more break because this is a longer episode. I do have 2 notes here before we get into the Q&A, though. First, you may have heard me say that the thing that Hazel says to the bird is, are you my dad? I think it was actually a miswriting in my notes. I think I thought that it said, are you my dad? But upon rereading it, and I hope I say this properly in the next episode when we pick up from this, upon reread, it says, are you from my dad? Which makes more sense, but are you my dad is way funnier, but that was the issue there. Now, speaking of issues, there will be a point towards the very, very, very end of this episode, like the last question of Q&A, where the audio distinctly switches in quality. I don't know what happened with the recording, but it kind of stopped short. Thankfully, I was filming the show, and the video version of this is up on Patreon for all TNO patrons, and Sherry and I took the audio from that, which is fine, but not nearly as good as the proper microphones. We put that in for the very ending portion. So that is the audio switch. You'll hear that change. But now you're going to hear some more ads, and then we'll get into the Q&A. A very fun Q&A. Lots of fun conversations, many of them about Wawa. Let's get into Q&A. Woo! Yay! Fun, fun, fun. So, this is from Richie. Subject line is 10-9-8 76ers, which is the best song of any sports team. Like, no doubt, 100%. After the Sixers win a game, it's the song where they go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Sixers, 10-9-8 76ers. It's so good. It's so good. I love it so much. So, Richie says, for those who need the catch-up, can you give an Aeolus-style, out-of-breath news anchor recap of the Heroes of Olympus series so far? Ooh. So, like, really quickly, in case people are, like, not caught up with the podcast. Okay. I guess spoiler alert, question mark? All right. We meet a new friend, Jason, and everyone goes, who the hell is Jason? And he's on a bus with his friends Leo and Piper, who he definitely feels like he knows, but then soon it's established that he doesn't actually know them and the memories are fake. They get attacked by wind spirits called Venti in Las Vegas. They go to the Grand Canyon. They go to like a school for troubled kids. Think Camp Green Lake from Holes. So they go there, and then there's this big attack, and then there's Coach Hedge, who is like their coach, who we learn is like their actual satyr protector, and then he gets basically sacrifices himself, and the wind spirits take him away. Then Annabeth and this guy Butch comes up. Butch is the son of Iris. They take them over to Camp Half-Blood. Then at Camp Half-Blood, Chiron's like, Jason, you should be dead. He's like, I'm sorry, I just met you. Then Leo gets claimed by Hephaestus, but he calls him Vulcan for a second.
Jason calls him
Vulcan, which is the first clue that Jason's got like Roman background and stuff. Then we get a visit of Hera in the mix, but it's Juno Hera to Jason. And then basically we learn that like Hera's been captured by some sort of evil being. And then we also learn that Piper's dad, who's a famous movie star, has been held captive by this evil giant called Enchiladas. And then they have to go on this big quest to try and save Hera. So they go up and visit like wind gods in Quebec City, and then they go into the Chicago area and they have to deal with Medea, and then they go to Montana and they have to Omaha, Nebraska, and they have to deal with King Midas, and then they go to Colorado and they meet up with our good pal Thalia and Lycaon, this like evil wolf guy. Then they go to Aeolus, King of the Winds, who's like in this mountain above this like Pikes Peak in Colorado. Then it turns out that like he's actually compromised by the evil person. Then they have to go to California, where they have to fight off the Ice Princess, who was with the Wind People. They fight her off. Then they have to fight, they go to Mount Diablo, which I predicted earlier. They go to Mount Diablo. They fight off Enchiladas. They save Piper's dad. Then they fight off the Ice Princess in California. And then the bigger giant, who was like sucking away the power of Hera to reforms. They get him to leave because Hera turns into a nuke. And then Jason
dies
but comes back. He's chill. and then they go back to Camp Half-Blood, and Jason's like, oh my God, I remember some stuff now, but not everything because Hera lied to me. And I think that there's a Roman camp and Percy's at it, and then that's the end of the book. Right? That feels like we've done it. Cool.
Excellent.
Basketball question for the horse fans out there. How do you feel about Joel Embiid's load management plan and never playing back-to-backs again? Good or bad for the Sixers this season? Bad, because he's good at basketball. So if he's not playing as much, not ideal. But if it works and it pans out in the playoffs, then it's good. And it's definitely panned out before, like Kawhi Leonard. So there's surely no problem with a load management program for a star with an injury history. Congrats to you and Kelly and Uncle Steven on the little one. Reggie. Alrighty. This one is from Leora. Subject line, welcome back to Doylestown. Hi, Mike. Welcome back to Doylestown. So glad to have you back. Special thanks for the Central Jersey shout out. I spend most of my days arguing with college students that it exists. It exists. I don't get it. It exists. It exists. Don't lump me in with North Jersey or South Jersey. They're worse than us. If you're from North or South Jersey, you're great and you're wonderful. All right, my question is this. As you, notorious sports ball boy, should well know, the city is known for its love of our fabulous mascots. If you had to assign each of the beloved Philly mascots, the Fanatic, Gritty, and Swoop, who's Swoop? Oh, so I couldn't care less about football. Why are you talking about Franklin, the very good Sixers dog? Yeah! A godly parent, who would they be and why? Specifically, who is Gritty's godly parent? Okay. Gritty, I would think he's the big orange goofy
Yeah, I know Gritty. Yeah, I don't know the others.
I would feel like Hermes just because he feels like the type to play pranks, so like trickster god of sorts. Or unless there's like a god, some god of chaos. He just feels like the most unhinged.
Isn't there?
Oh, I guess chaos, but chaos can't have children. Or not demigod, maybe. So maybe
it would be
like chaos, sure. The Philly Fanatic I know is like normally a goofball of sorts, so maybe the Philly Fanatic instead is Hermes.
I could see Hermes there.
And then Swoop, I don't know. Aries because football, I don't know. And then Franklin, who's the most boring possible god? Who's the most boring god? Look, you could have made the mascot Ballin' Ben Franklin, but you made it a dog because the prototype for the Ben Franklin one scared children. Was this a good idea? Probably. Did I want a giant Ben Franklin running around Sixers games? Yes. Am I the target demographic for mascots? No! Was I terrified of humanoid mascots when I was a child? Yes! My parents went to Rutgers and they have a big Scarlet Knight. I did not like the Scarlet Knight. I did not enjoy the Scarlet Knight. He had a big, foam head. I did not like the Scarlet Knight.
But if you ever see this old game called Tony Hawk's Underground 2,
yes,
you can play as Benjamin Franklin.
You can. I forgot about that.
Kick flips. It's great.
And isn't one of his things like you grind and then you have like the kite that's like got lightning bolt going? That might be one of his.
I have extended my knowledge of Thug.
That might be. I had never owned Thug 2. I only rented Thug 2, so I don't know. I have the full knowledge. Where I've beat Tony Hawk's Underground at least 35 times. I don't think I'm exaggerating. Okay, this one's from Nicole. Doylestown forever. Hi, Mike and Dr. Steven. I love the Wawa sweatshirt, and I'm a frequent late night Wawa patron. So my question is, what do you think the Percy Jackson or Heroes of Olympus characters' go-to Wawa order would be? Okay, all right. Percy's just getting a bunch of blue candy and blue drinks and all that kind of stuff. Annabeth is like going to the sandwich machine and like artisanally crafting a great sandwich. Grover's just getting all the to-go silverware and napkins. Jason is just going to get a hot dog because he's an American. Piper's going to get some veggie bullcrap sandwich that has been there for way too long because no one is buying it. And then Leo, I guess.
Takis.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, that's correct.
I can say it. Takis.
Correct. Great. This one's from Miles.
Tyson's going to get chocolate milk.
Oh, yeah. And that is the most correct choice. This one's from Miles. Hey, guys, this is my first time actually learning about this podcast, and I'm having a great time. Just curious, who's your favorite Hades 1 character? I'm personally a big Meg and Thanatos fan, but want to hear your thoughts. So we've learned Miles is horny. They're two of the romanceable characters. It's nothing again. They're very hot. I don't blame you.
Yeah.
They're so
in
hot.
Hades
They're
is
so hot. Everyone is, but those two are so
Yeah.
hot. I haven't played much of Hades 2 yet, so yeah. Okay, Hades 1 favorite character. Gosh, I like Poseidon a lot. He's so fun, but it is impossible not to pick Boldy the Boulder. Do you have a favorite character?
Eurydice for sure.
Oh, that is good. I do love to chill in her little singing thing.
Best song in the game. Great art direction. Awesome.
Yeah.
Even if it's not the right choice in the run, I always go to see Eurydice.
Yeah. Okay, this is from Miriam. All caps. Important to you know Wawa question. Hello, this is my first live show. Happy to be here. You said you loved Wawa, and I wanted to to know what you think each person's. Oh, we already did it. Nailed it. Important question asked and answered. There are 2 Wawas in Doylestown, says Brooke in her subject line. Thank you for making a good thing happen this week. I think the magic train thing might be a reference to the Grey Sisters taxi, but it could be a Hogwarts ew reference too. Oh, man. My question is, what would the gang goes to Wawa snacks be? Wow, we've done it. Well, okay, let's see. Juliana and Marco put the coordinates that I messed up. And then Doylestown baby in parentheses. Hey, Mike, big fan of the pod. This is my second live show, and it's been super fun. My question for you and Steven is, what would the Percy Jackson characters be if they were animated Disney/Pixar characters? Ooh, okay. Different animated Pixar or Disney
Jason's
characters.
Lightning McQueen.
Oh, like that. That's good. I did see a thing on the subreddit that was like, don't call them Sparky, call them Lightning McLean. It's pretty good. Let's see. Grover is the nature mountains from the thing they play before Moana. The like I lava you thing, because it's all nature pan and stuff. He's the guy mountain from the lava thing. Tyson, who's just like the goodest. Doug from Up is Tyson.
Oh, yeah.
And then Annabeth is, I don't know, like a very like put together know-it-all-y type, not annoyingly so. Maybe like Mrs. Incredible or something, like just like very competent
I'm with that,
and like smart, but also can like hold her own in a battle. Percy, who's like our belovable main character that's like kind of a goof. Flynn Rider. Yeah, that could be good. And then Coach Hedge is Buzz Lightyear when he's in
Can't
attack
he just
mode.
be Phyllis Satidi?
Oh, you're right. Yeah. The satyrs could just be Phil. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in there. Yeah. That's fun.
But I
Okay.
think Coach Hedge is like much more Phil. Than...
Phil, he's very Phil for sure. Okay. Ooh, this is from Megan and Liam from actual Doylestown-ians. Hooray! We did it. Our question is, if you were to swap characters' places in the story, example, Percy gets turned into a pine tree 3 years beforehand, or Annabeth is a mortal who becomes an oracle, what characters would you most want to see in another situation? Also, here's a photo of a cat who's named after the one and only Percy Jackson. He's a very cute cat. It's a very cute, very good boy. It's a sleepy little. Look at that. Podcast people are at home. Oh, sucks to suck. That's why you got to come to live shows. Characters in different stories. I mean, Percy as a tree would be funny because he'd be so mad about it. He'd be so upset about it.
It took you this long to get me out of the tree.
He would be furious. I mean, I would love to see someone grumpier be captured by Polyphemus. So, like, Clarice does get captured, but if Clarice fully went through the, like, Grover wedding dress and all that stuff, like, she'd be so mad. I think that would be really fun.
I love that we were both thinking of Sea of Monsters. I was just thinking of swapping the satyrs. So like Coach Hedge.
Yeah, it's good.
In the
That's
dress,
good.
trying to like.
Yeah, that's really good. I also think it would just be fun just from like a main character thing of like, what if Grover was around in the Sea of Monsters? What if Annabeth was around in Titan's Curse? Like not even like huge position things, but just like how do all of those fights and things that they do across the way, like how do all of those differ just by like having this person around? I think that's fun. And that feels like ripe for fan fiction of just like alternate universe. Like what if Tyson was here for this book instead kind of thing. Okay, this one's from Bella. First official live. Hello, I'm a longtime listener. This is my first time at a live show. My question is, what do you think will happen? Or what would you like to see happen in this quest? I would like to see them succeed. As far as what will happen, I guess I'll kind of go off what I was saying. Like, they'll go to Seattle. I feel like it's going to be some sort of magical help that is not people fighting. There's going to definitely be stops along the way before they get to Alaska where they're going to have to like fight some people and overcome stuff. But like my big overarching thing is like, I think they're going to get to Alaska. I think they are going to like win this fight and like get the eagle and everything. They'll come back for the battle. Then I guess Tyson shows up and they win that one as well. And then there's going to be some sort of thing where like at the end of this book, there's going to be the revelation to Percy of like what's been going on. And then the beginning of book 3 is like starting to resolve it. Because like timeline wise, it seems like this one is going to end by the time our Camp Half-Blood friends are like ready to go to Greece. So it feels like this will end with like, we got to go to Greece. And then book 3 is like, Greece. So that's at least where I'm at. Do you have any predictions since you have not read past chapter 17?
It's actually kind of cool that I can sort of.
Yeah, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I think this Gorgon's blood kind of just has to come into play. This seems to be like Chekov's Gorgon's blood.
Ooh, yeah, you're right.
They keep pointing out that
that's good.
Frank has these vials. I'm like, it's got to do something. There's got to be some shenanigans about like this giant can't lose in his home domain. Like, they're gonna do something.
Like, it feels like tricky shenanigans to like get him technically out. It's like, oh, we're
Yeah.
technically in Russia now. Blah! Like, yeah.
Exactly.
Feels like that. That's a good prediction.
Yes, I feel like that's gonna have to come into play. I'm just gonna call it shot that there's gonna be like an army of guinea pigs. It's probably not gonna happen.
I like it though.
I really want it.
I like it. I think it's good. I think that's really fun. This next question is from Zach. Zach says, "Hey Schubes, in celebration of Backyard Baseball being released on Steam last month, and this being a topic from last week's episode, at least last week in November/end of October, I felt it fitting to ask this: What Backyard Baseball team would the Percy Jackson and Heroes of Olympus characters be on, and what would their in-game nicknames be? Really enjoying the show." So I'm very happy that Backyard Baseball is now available on Steam, but it is not available for Macs. But it's okay because I still have Backyard Baseball installed on my computer. I have an emulator that has one game on it, Backyard Baseball 2001, the ideal Backyard Baseball. So I have pulled it up to directly look at all the team names. So our options, are you? You said you were more of a Backyard Soccer guy.
I was
right?
more of a backyard soccer guy.
Okay, so the Backyard Baseball official teams are, you've got the Melonheads, when you like create your own team and you don't pick one of the MLB teams. The Melonheads, the Hornets, the Wombats, the Bombers, the Monsters, and the Fishes. And then you get to pick an adjective for your team. The adjectives are, and I think they're in alphabetical order, so let's go to the beginning. Blue, crazy, green, humongous, junior, little, mighty, red, super duper, white, and that's it. So I would feel like Percy's going to be the Fishes. Just feels normal there. I would say the Bombers. That feels like Tyson to me just because he was so good at the Laestrygonian exploding cannonball dodgeball.
I feel like Leo kind of slides in there for some reason too.
Yeah, just fire, and that makes sense. And then let's see, the Monsters. I guess all of the villains are the Monsters. The Wombats, maybe Grover because of like animals and nature and stuff.
Yeah.
The Hornets.
Luke.
Ooh. Oh, because he's a real pain.
Yeah, he's a real pain.
He's a real pain. Yep. And then the Melonheads, which is, it's all the coolest logo. It's just like a guy whose head is a watermelon. It's so good. The Melonheads is fun. Does anyone have a canonically big head in the books? The Melonheads. The Melonheads. Ares? I don't really know who would be the Melonheads.
A bit of a melon head.
It sounds like he would call people Melonhead. Like,
Yeah.
What a Melonhead.
Well, it takes one to know one.
Yeah. So maybe Ares is there. Maybe Clarice is on the Melonheads.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, sweet. That was asked and answered. Love that. Great. This one is from Kelsey, Doylestown, in quotes live show. First off, Wawa pizza is awful. Okay, glad to have the confirmation.
All right.
But I highly recommend their mac and cheese. Someone else also recommended mac and cheese in a previous email, but it was a question I think we had already answered. Their mac and cheese with Old Bay. Ooh, as a former New Jerseyan that now lives in Maryland, where the Chesapeake Bay is throwback to the Sea of Monsters, it is simply chef's kiss. So, potential. Now on to important things. No, don't worry, that was important. In the beginning of the podcast, you saw yourself in Percy for certain qualities and your wife in Annabeth. Do you feel that this has changed as the series has continued and as you go through your life? I think no. I feel like if anything, the more I go on, I feel more justified in those selections. So I feel good. I guess as you as a more unbiased party, do you feel like I'm like Percy and Kelly's like Annabeth? Or do you think there's more differences as we learn more about these two friends?
I mean, I think y'all still kind of line up pretty well. I was re-listening to the chapters on the drive down because it takes a bit to get here from New York. And like literally the whole thing where it's just like, I think it sounds Greek. I'm like, well, that narrows it down. I'm like, that sounds like a conversation we would have had.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, no, it's still very Mike / Percy.
I'll take it. Yeah. I mean, look, when you have an architect and a trash talker, like it just lines up. Okay, this one's from Tristan and Amanda. It says, Schubes, if you could bring back any character, PJO or otherwise, back from the dead, but you had to kill another character from that universe, who would you choose? Okay, has anyone died in HOO and stayed dead so that I can kill Octavian? Because I would love that so much. I don't like him. Hasn't? No one's died and stayed dead yet. Gwen almost died, but then she was
You don't want to bring back Lee Fletcher?
Pain. Let's see. So let's go to Percy Jackson then. I gotta bring him back. Bring him back, Beckendorf, and then can I kill Selena a second time? She's not good. Let's bring back Beckendorf, and then I gotta kill somebody. Is there anyone like that's? I mean, it's a shame because at this point, like past the end of the book, like there's no like evil PJO people left, so I feel bad killing them. So could I pick? It's just a character, so I can just pick like someone evil. Are there any like monsters or something that were still afoot that I could get rid of? Like Mrs. Dodds? I mean, the monsters will come back, so like, yeah, let's just get rid of Mrs. Dodds.
Yeah,
Whatever.
sure.
Yeah, one of the monsters. Who cares? I don't care. They'll come back. There's no harm done. Whatever. All right, this one's from Abby. Says, I'm a longtime listener, currently repping my Violent Purple. Oh, nice. Big fan. And fellow pigeon enthusiast, also a Central Jersey denier. It says, please don't stop reading this email. I really want to stop reading this email. My question is, what would your Roman god persona be? Name, appearance, personality differences. The newest new Roman, if you will. Highly recommend the Wawa Buffalo Chicken Quesadilla. Love the show, Abby. Okay, so we have Roman versions of ourselves. So if they're like a little bit different. So I guess like if you had like if we're saying the Greek is like the true you, if you have the Roman like alternate you, what would it be? I guess like my alternate, like to be more proper, instead of Mike, I would go by like Michael Schubert to be like very prim and proper. I feel like appearance wise, it would be my pre-floppy hair when I had more of just kind of like a buzz cutty, like Guile from Street Fighter kind of look. Not an ideal situation. Basically, my Roman, I'm just describing engineering Mike Schubert as my Roman persona. Do you have an alternate? Yeah, I guess it's the alternate reality in which the podcast doesn't take off and I'm still like an engineer, but I don't like it. What about you?
I mean, I think the more easy thing is the Greek version of me is Grover and the Roman one is Leo, I guess, but not exactly what the question's asking.
We'll
I guess, okay. I guess, I think like in the moment what you're saying, it'd probably be someone that it's like, no, I'm Dr. Parra. Hello. How's it going?
Yeah, so we're just very boring in our different answers.
Like,
okay. Yeah. I got it. Cool. All right. Hey, it's Mike from the future real quick. The audio is about to drastically change. It's not your ears. It's not your headphones. It's not your computer. It's not your phone. It's not your car. It's the recording stopped early, so we had to switch to the audio that I had from the camera for the Patreon bonus video version of the live show. So that's why it's about to switch. You're not losing your mind or your eardrums. You're good. Okay, here's the rest of the episode. So this says it's from Percy. Oh, Percy's in the crowd. So this will be our final question. Hey, Mike and Dr. Parra. Hope you're having a lovely time in Philly so far. I've been lucky enough to see you twice this year. Just moved up here from Tampa, Florida. Oh, nice. Cool. Great. Welcome to a better state, I would just assume. You mentioned watching Breaking Bad in a recent episode, and I wanted to hear your thoughts on the show and general takeaways from it, as I just finished watching Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul and El Camino. It's a good show. I like it a lot. And it's one of those, like, I've been meaning to rewatch it because, like, I, like, plowed through it when I watched it the first time. Mm-hmm. There was a time in my life when I was like, oh, I'll have it on as, like, a background show while I'm doing stuff. And then it'll help me, like, kind of remember. And then I would just, like, be folding laundry, just, like, standing, staring at television. And I had to stop. I was like, I can't casually rewatch this. So, like, maybe one day I'll do a dedicated rewatch. But I loved it. Were you a Breaking Bad guy?
Oh, yeah. I loved it, too. It's like, our senior year at Rice is when it was finishing up. And I was a chemistry major. So can you like make it? And I'm like, it's not a complex time.
People at Rice University, you heard about that?
Yeah.
There were like grad students who legit got like in trouble with like the authorities because they were making meth. They were like legit doing it.
Yes.
They were making meth on campus, which is like, what are you doing? Make it in your garage like a normal person. Come on. All right, but now onto their actual question, which is a great way to close the show. Do you think you could take Gritty and Slash or the Philly Fanatic in a fight? So, and now it also says, don't sleep on the Wawa salads. They're surprisingly fresh and delicious. I have had Wawa salads. They are surprisingly fresh and delicious. So, Philly Fanatic and Gritty in a fight. I think one-on-one, I can take the Fanatic, no problem. Like, it's not going to be a contest. He's got that big belly that I can just like grab and throw him by, not a problem. Gritty would destroy me. I feel very confident. One-on-one against the Fanatic, I feel very confident in getting my ass handed to me by Gritty. Because he's gonna I feel like fighting Gritty is like fighting a WWE character or wrestler or whatever, where like we'd be fighting and then he would like reach behind this curtain and there'd be like a baseball bat with barbed wire around it. I'd be like, of course, you're Gritty. Yeah, that makes sense. Do you think you could take either of these mascots in a fight?
I guess before I say that, like just all of my thoughts and opinions are mine and mine alone.
Very good.
No.
Beautiful. What a perfect note to end the show. Thank you all so much for coming out. For making it out through the show. Very, very much appreciated. Give it up to Dr. Steven for being an incredible guest. Give it up to Amy for rocking the merch table. And give it up to everyone here at World Cafe Live. This has been an awesome experience, like so nice in terms of like setting it up beforehand, doing the sound, the food, the hospitality, the worship. Like this was such a smooth process. This was so nice. So please give it up to all the folks here. Very, very much appreciate it. And I hope to come back. This is very fun. Always fun to do the annual pilgrimage to Philly to talk about books and stuff. Or sorry, to Doylestown. But until I find my way back here to do another show, until then, I'll see you later! Thanks so much for coming to the show, everybody!
Hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode of The Newest Olympian. This podcast is created, hosted, and produced by me, Mike Schubert. I also run the social media and the website. Our editor is Sherry Guo. The music is by Bettina Campamontes and Brandon Grugel, and the art is by Jessica E. Boyd. If you love the podcast and you just can't get enough, there's a couple of different things you can do. First, you can go to thenewestolympian.com/Patreon. You can join the Patreon, and you can get access to a whole bunch of fun bonus content. You can also follow us on social media. We're at Newest Olympian on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. There's also a subreddit, reddit.com/r/thenewestolympian. And there's also the TNO Discord, which you get access to by joining any TNO tier on the Patreon. You can learn all about the show at thenewestolympian.com, and you can get some sweet TNO merch at thenewestolympian.com/merch. I've mentioned the Patreon, so let's give a shout out to our producer level patrons: Kelsey Gillespie, the Damn Steam Nuggets, Vicky Garcia, Frida Vikstrom, Megan Moon, Sabrina Balsiger, Polly Burge, Nikki Harris, Tatiana Schmidt, Sandra Rose, Josh Sayer, Josh Wilkie, Abby Ryan, Marco Redhouse, Sam Reeby, Mrs. O'Leary, Milo Kim, Sandkoff, Rika, Ryla Matthews, Sky Mallory, Persasabeth, Aiden Parziani, Grace, Ginger Spursboy, A Cup of Solace, Bradimus Prime, Skylar Sisters, Scott Sheldon, Sophie, Natanya Page, Ann M. Thayer Cohen, Bella, Percy Jack's Son, Han, Haley Hingleheimer Schmidt, Catherine Sloan, Jessica Phillips, Haley Mary, Jim Jam Koopy, Kit Kat Crumbs, Andrea, not Andrea, and Jordan Ray. If you want to support the show in a non-monetary way, just tell someone about the podcast. It really does help a lot, whether that is you reaching out to someone directly who you think might enjoy the podcast. Maybe they're a big Percy Jackson fan. Maybe they've been looking for an excuse to read the books. Or if you post about the show on social media, or you leave us a rating and review on whatever podcasting app you're using. Truly, all of these things help. I really appreciate anyone who has done it in the past, and I also appreciate anyone who will do it in the future. But I'm just so thankful that you tuned into this episode, and I hope you tune into our next episode, where we'll be joined by Johnny Frolickstein and Sherry Guo for the Q&A as we conclude chapter 17 and get our way all the way through chapter 20 of The Son of Neptune. But until then, I'll see you later. Hey everyone, how's it going? It's me, ASMR Mike. So here in the Shubio right now, I have a receipt from a purchase that I made while I was traveling recently, and it's quite crinkly. So I'm just going to crinkle this receipt near the microphone for the ASMR Mike segment. Thank you so much for listening.